Good evening, everyone. It is 6:31 p.m. We're going to call this meeting to order. Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas will be held on Thursday, July 8th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. at 22870 Priest Road, Sandy Oaks, Texas, and by telephonic video conferencing, which will be live streamed and accessible to the public as provided below for the purpose of considering the following agenda items. All agenda items are subject to action. In an effort to advance a public health goal of limiting face-to-face meetings, also called social distancing, to slow the spread of the coronavirus, COVID-19, there will be no in-person public access to the meeting. In accordance with the order of the Office of the Governor issued March 16, 2020, the City of Sandy Oaks will provide a live stream video and telephonic access of the meeting to the public. The public may participate in this meeting by using the links or phone numbers that are provided on the agenda. The public will be permitted to offer public comments telephonically or by audio as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting, by signing up with the city secretary at least 2 hours in advance of the meeting, by emailing cityclerk@cityofsandyoaks.com, or by calling 210-607-0834. Written comments may be submitted to the city secretary up to 2 hours before the meeting and will be provided to the city council for their consideration. A recording of the telephonic meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Texas Public Information Act upon written request. Ms. Rabe, can we get a quorum call, please?
Alderman Fillinger.
Here.
Alderman Bricken.
Here.
Alderman Rapino.
Here.
Alderman Crickmer.
Here.
Alderwoman Puente.
Here.
There is a quorum present.
Perfect, thank you. We'll move on to item number 2, citizens to be heard. Ms. Rabe, did we have any?
No.
Okay. We'll move on to item 3, mayor and administrator announcements and updates. Other than wishing Alderman Crickmer a happy birthday, I really don't have any other announcements at this time. So we'll move on to, we are expecting a guest. And I do not see him on here. Let me check and see. Oh, wait. Okay. An email. We're going to move to, I'm going to move item number 10E. We're going to move to that one first. And hopefully he will be joining us here shortly. He did provide a drawing, but if we need to see that. What's going on is this gentleman from M&H Outdoor, they have been working since 2016 to have a highway billboard installed. And they were originally working with Dillon Trucking, who is no longer here, and Miss Verma, who bought Old Jack's Corner. They've been working with her. So they've now come to an agreement, and TxDOT does require that we have some things in place, which we don't, because we don't have planning and zoning in place yet. But basically, our city attorney has drafted a letter to TxDOT for letting them know. It just says the following electronic/digital billboard is not in violation of any local ordinance or regulation of signs within the city of Sandy Oaks and has been approved by the city council of the city for construction, and they give an address. So the intent is to put a digital, a big billboard. It's a huge billboard that you see along the highway. So space would be rented. Ms. Verma will receive some financial. I'm not privy to what her agreement is with M&H Outdoor, but it's just to put a sign up and they'll sell advertising on it.
It's not on the highway.
It's on the highway side. It's not in the city side. I mean, it's
But
in the
it's,
city, but it's on her property in the city
Facing the highway.
facing the highway.
The
They'll
highway.
see it
but
north
this
and
isn't
south.
one of those signs that for a silver alert for somebody missing.
No,
at
no, 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 no,
Texarkana.
no, 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 no.
Oh, okay.
This is your traditional highway billboard.
Okay,
This
But
one's
it's
just,
digital.
it's gonna be digital.
okay.
Only 48 inches in length.
I'm sorry?
It's only 4 feet in length.
Where are you seeing
Yeah,
that?
the size of the sign face is 14 feet high,
and
48 inches in length.
length.
And down there under the little descriptions underneath
It's
location.
not very
That's
big.
the
but
sign
it's probably-
face. So it'll be 60 feet above the center grade of Interstate Highway 37, 14 feet in height, and 48 inches in length.
That's
That
not a very
doesn't
big.
sound,
Well, that should fit easily.
Well, yeah,
It's
it's big,
14
but
feet.
I'm evaluated on its ability to be seen from the highway.
yeah,
It
let
might
me,
be an
Read
error.
it.
Possible
hold on, he
error
said he
there.
sent me a, let me go look and see if I can find the diagram that here it is right here. And then I should be able to share it.
Yep, Mayor, that's a typo. I was reviewing the email. It's 48 feet.
Oh,
No, that makes
48
sense.
feet, 9 inches. Okay,
Okay.
I knew that had to be wrong.
okay, we'll get that corrected. So it's a good size sign. And I will share this diagram. Let me see how we're gonna do this. Can you allow me to share my screen?
Mhm.
That's one expensive sign.
They are very expensive.
No.
He,
So we have to, we're not gonna, it's not gonna cost the city anything.
no,
correct?
it does not cost the city anything. It's a revenue stream for Ms. Verma.
Right.
I'm gonna make you the host so you can share because it's not an
Oh.
option on here.
Well, it says share screen. Oh,
So long
host
as you can
enable.
find advertisers, otherwise it'll be blank, I guess.
I'm sure the people putting it in
There we
will find
go.
the advertising.
Mhm.
Yeah, because they're gonna want to get their money back. That's how they'll
It's
get their
probably
money
like
back.
the one there
Yeah.
at 35.
Okay,
and
so you should be able to see,
37.
except for y'all sitting at the table, you can't see anything. It gives you an idea where they're going to do the sign. So here is the property. And it looks like they're looking to put it right here in the corner of her property. So what you have,
Oh, that's right.
what you have here is Dillon that's now
Mhm.
vacant, and back here in this corner, that's where they're anticipating placing the sign.
Is that gonna be two-way?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And I don't know if, I'm gonna stop sharing now. He still has not joined us. Okay, that's fine. So the item 10E reads, discuss and or possible action on authorization to the Texas Department of Transportation for an electronic/digital billboard at 23345 Mathis Road on Interstate Highway 37 and authorization of mayor to submit the letter of approval.
You what? Well, aren't we supposed to hear from this guy personally?
Well, I invited him to the meeting in case y'all had any questions, but he's obviously not on the call.
As long as he gets a yard sale on it, because I gotta have a permit or something.
Any other questions?
The city doesn't have any issue with the sign going up. It's a private enterprise,
It is a
correct?
private enterprise, and the city had approved several years ago, the gentleman that owns the Valero Quick,
Correct, yes.
whatever that place is, had approached us about placing a 60-foot sign on his property, and we did authorize it. But he never did pursue that.
He will get revenue from people that advertise. Will we
Yes.
be able to tax that revenue?
That's a good question, and I see a head shaking no over here.
No.
You could.
Do we get,
do an
is there
annual type of
taxable?
Permit fee, you know, to permit it.
Yeah,
A licensing fee, basically.
yeah.
And well, her property, her real property, the tax on a real property would go up.
Oh,
Right,
it would, okay,
yes.
for the value of the board.
Sign.
Okay,
Wow.
Okay,
Oh,
well, that's
wow.
tax.
so there you go.
And
A little bit of a tax bump for us.
I don't know, franchise fee.
No, we're not doing
It-
franchise
The
fee.
rental, the company that puts it out. will probably-
Do you want to vote or something?
Yes, I need
We
a
have to
motion.
vote approval.
Yeah, anybody have any more questions?
I have no objection.
we need a,
We need a motion on this one.
I move that we give the mayor the authority to approve the authorization to submit a letter of approval so that the billboard can.
To
Yeah.
Tech Dot, correct?
It is to
yeah, the
TxDOT,
Texas
yes.
Department of Transportation.
Okay.
It's in the letter.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Rapino to authorize the mayor, myself, to submit the letter of approval to TxDOT for authorizing the road sign, the digital billboard, and we have a second by Alderman Crickmer. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that motion is unanimous. Okay. So we got that one down. All right. I know that Chief Lopez is on the phone and he is not, he's off. So I would like to move to that item on the agenda. And I think everybody just received, I know I got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got it.
So, Chief Lopez, would you like to do, hold on, let me get to that line item here. We'll move to item 7A under Police Department. Item A, updates and announcements from Chief Lopez with possible discussion and/or action. Chief Lopez, do you have any general announcements?
No, ma'am.
Okay. We'll move to item 7B, presentation of monthly report by Chief Lopez with possible discussion and/or action. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So for the monthly report for June, so we're going to start off with court defendants. We had 130 court defendants, 213 cases, and so move down to our traffic stops. 98 traffic stops, increased a little bit there. Citations, we had 103 citations as well, along with 38 warnings given out as well. So for the month of last month, we had 5 arrests, and then we dropped down to drug paraphernalias. We had one case there for that. And then civil matters, calls for service was 4. Disturbances, calls for service was 4 as well. 2 information reports, 2 damaged property reports, 2 calls for service for suspicious persons, 1 theft, 1 welfare concern call for service. And then we go down to call for service for threats, 1 call, and then 5 harassment calls within the city as well. We'll drop down to commercial vehicles. Citation was given for commercial vehicle parked in the city. And then drop down to junk vehicles, also another citation for junk vehicles as well. And then we'll get down to recreational vehicles, RVs, citation was issued for that as well. 1 animal call for service. And then for the next page, we had 1 fire structure call for service in the city. And for the rest of June, we had 5 arrests. As you can see, we had 1 assault, a couple of 2 SAPD warrants, 1 county warrant, and also a Bandera county warrant as well. So.
I do have a question for you on the harassment. You had 5 harassment cases. Are those individual cases? Were they repeats on the same case?
No, they're just they're separate cases. Individuals phone harassment of exes or things of that nature, girlfriends, boyfriends, or divorces of husband or wife and things like that. So.
Oh, okay.
Domestic.
Only five.
And on on this report that you've provided to us, there are no court cases or defendants listed for May. Is that a typo?
During that time, I believe our court clerk was out during that time, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So,
Um,
but next month on that, we'll have that filled in as well and update that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that updated before we post that on the website.
Okay, yeah, most definitely.
Okay. Hey, are there any
And then
questions?
real
Oh,
quick,
Go ahead, sir.
and so just to give everybody a heads up, obviously, you know, Officer Magny is off field training. As you know, that we have two officers overlapping each other to cover the issues and things like that within the city. So our officers are definitely responding to those calls. Like I said, the issues that we've had before, I think they're a little bit declining there. So, having two officers out there and showing their presence is definitely, getting things done. So.
Yeah, I think, and we have one of them on a night patrol. And I think,
Yeah.
yeah, so one in the afternoon, one at night, you hear during the day. So we're not quite 24/7 coverage, but we're getting a lot closer than we've ever been. So,
Yes.
okay. All right, any questions for Chief Lopez?
No.
Okay. Okay, sir. Appreciate it. You can stay. I'd like for you to stay for the next, where is it?
Right here.
Item C.
Nope, not that one. I want to do, it's under, boy, I'm all over the place. I hope you're keeping up, Charlotte.
I am.
Where is the one for the CCRB?
Oh, 10B?
Oh, it's, yeah, 10B.
10B, there we go. So let's move to 10B, which is discuss and or possible action on appointing members to the Citizen Complaint Review Board. So just a little brief history on this one. We've been trying to put this together for a little while. And the intent of the Citizen Complaint Review Board is specific to complaints, official complaints received by the police department for any misbehavior or generally complaints against the police department. And so we have an ordinance that's in place that allows for 4 citizens and 3 city representatives. One of those would be a police officer, one of them would be a paid employee, and one would be an elected official, if I'm not mistaken. And they would be charged with listening to evidence as a result of any case that's officially filed and making recommendations to the police chief and council for any potential disciplinary action. We've never had a complaint filed, but we're trying to be a little proactive and have this in place should that ever arise.
You said something, you said any general complaint.
No. Complaints against police officers.
Yeah, but it has to be not a.
It is an official, a sworn statement.
Yeah, it has to be a specific complaint.
Official
Yes.
oppression or
Official.
something
That's all
like
I
that.
wondered.
Yes. So we put out requests for people to submit. I think we gave them 2 weeks to submit anyone who was interested. We did have one of the applicants that was disqualified. They did not satisfy all the criteria that we established. But in the end, we did have 4 citizens who applied. So, and we needed 4. So that kind of worked out well. But I did want to announce who the members will be for the CCRB from the citizen standpoint. Number 1 would be David Tremblay. Number 2 would be Dalton Ellis. Number 3 would be James Ellis. And I am drawing a blank on number 4. Chief, who's number 4?
Ortiz and Boyer.
Oh, sorry. Number 4 is Al Ortiz.
Yeah.
Yes. So all four of them have been contacted by Chief Lopez, and background checks were done on them. All the criteria that we established for ensuring that they're registered voters, they have no tax debt, they don't have any criminal activities that would disqualify them, and they signed the waiver. So congratulations to the four of these gentlemen for stepping up to serve on this board, and let's hope we never have to see you. But we would love to see you if we need to. Now, from a standpoint of the city side for representation, Chief Lopez and I have had a conversation briefly about what we envision that being. I would like to recommend that Officer Magny be the police officer, simply from the standpoint that he is bilingual, and I think that would be very important in that position. So from an paid employee, I would take recommendations from the council members here on who you think may be suitable to serve in that position. Anybody?
There's like 4 of them.
Well,
Priscilla.
there's
Priscilla
one,
and Chris.
2,
Priscilla and Chris.
3, 4. Yes. 2 are here and 2 are not.
Yeah.
Do any of you want to volunteer?
Have they
No.
talked about it?
Look at them looking away.
I'll
Everybody's-
Have
volunteer.
they talked about it? at
I'll
all? Do we know?
volunteer.
Charlotte says she would volunteer.
Okay, I
That's awesome.
feel for that.
Does that work for you, Chief?
Ma'am, that works for me.
Okay. And then that leaves the elected official to serve. Does anyone here want to volunteer for that?
I would volunteer for that.
Okay, awesome. And then Charlotte. So there's your team, Chief.
Nice. I mean, it's an amazing thing, to bring that type of, everybody together to have that transparency and that trust. Obviously, you're going to have your naysayers. People had an opportunity to put their name in the hat. And so we gave the citizens what they want, and now it's here. And so now we're going to move forward for even better transparency and clarity on the interaction with the public, myself and other officers and things like that. So I definitely welcome it. I'm glad it's here. It's finally here. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully we don't have to use it, but just in case we do, we have that there. So
Perfect. Okay, so Ms. Ortiz, I'm assuming we need a motion on this?
Yes, you do need a motion to approve, and you can approve all the members at once.
Okay. So I'm going to ask that Alderman Fillinger recuse himself.
Yeah, he can't. right,
From
'cause
this
he's
one.
in
I'll be happy to be recused.
What about that?
How should the motion
Well, she
be,
doesn't vote.
Oh, okay.
how should the motion be made? Just that we approve all the members?
The nominations for
Just, okay.
We have to
the
know their names,
CCRB.
list their names,
Do you know their names?
I
got
think,
it written down.
well, then you make the motion because
Okay.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve for the Citizens Complaint Review Board the following. Citizens would be David Tremblay, D. Ellis, J. Ellis, Al Ortiz. For the city, Officer Magny, Charlotte Rabe, and Charles Fillinger.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion from Alderman Crickmer to approve the nomination of James Ellis, Dalton Ellis, David Tremblay, Al Ortiz from Citizens, and Mayor Pro Tem Charles Fillinger, Charlotte Rabe, City Clerk, and Officer Magny for the city representation, and a second by Alderman Rapino. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries, and Alderman Fillinger did not vote. Okay, thank you very much. And Chief Lopez, you're always welcome to stay, but I know you have more fun things to do, so you're free to go if you choose.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Have a good
Chief.
evening.
Thank you.
Mayor, before, in the ordinance, there is alternate terms for the residents, with 2 of the residents serving for a 1-year term and 2 of the residents serving for a 2-year term. Does the council want to make that determination as well?
My thought on that was that, and I apologize, Charlotte, I should have told you this, was to take their names and write them on a piece of paper and fold it in half. Let's put it in a hat, box, whatever. The first one that's pulled out, odd years serve 1 year, even serves 2. So however they're pulled out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Would you like to, do you have any scrap paper that we can possibly do that?
Right now.
Oh, you'll do it right now? Okay. In the meantime, I'm gonna kind of look
So
through here
we
and
need
see what
another,
else.
Motion for that.
We will need another motion for who's gonna serve for what terms. You know, it's very interesting that I honestly thought we would have a lot of people sign up for that. There seemed to be a lot of public comment
I don't
around.
think they want the background check.
Well, that comes
I
with
wouldn't.
it. You wouldn't want the background check.
I'd rather
Wait,
get a
Chief's still on the line. We gotta be careful here.
colonoscopy.
What we're gonna find out is that today is your birthday.
That's a rumor.
Oh, look at you. Okay, so number 1,
J. Ellis.
James Ellis. Okay, he'll serve for 1 year. And number 2.
Pick another. Oh, am I going?
You're going.
All right. David Tremblay.
David Tremblay serves for 2 years.
Al Ortiz is number 3.
Al Ortiz serves for a year.
And the last one
It's got to be Dalton.
is, yeah, D. Ellis?
Dalton.
Dalton Ellis.
Oh, okay.
Dalton is.
So he will serve for 2 years. Okay, perfect. Okay,
I want to make a motion that the citizens appointed to the Citizen Complaint Review Board be 1-year term, J. Ellis and Al Ortiz, and for 2-year term, David Tremblay and Dalton Ellis.
Okay.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Alderman Crickmer to appoint James Ellis and Al Ortiz for 1-year terms, and David Tremblay and Dalton Ellis for 2-year terms. And we have a second by Alderman Rapino. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion is unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Ortiz, for keeping us on track here. Okay, and Chief is still here. I guess he's gonna listen for a while. We don't talk bad about him. Okay, so I want to move, we're gonna move all over the place here. The next person that I want to bring up on the agenda is, it's gonna be you as soon as I find you.
Jenny.
10A.
Oh, it's up here. I've scribbled all over the
I
place.
must be sitting too close to you because it's rubbing off bad.
Don't.
Okay, item 10A, presentation of independent audit for fiscal year ending 9/30/2020 with possible discussion and action. We have Miss Debbie Frazier from Armstrong, Vaughn and Associates, who has, her company has prepared our annual audit as they did last year. And so they're going to present the findings from that, and I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, and I'll just sit if that's okay with you guys.
You are fine.
And obviously my voice is loud according to my kids, so it's not loud enough to yell. So we did perform this audit, and then if you remember last year, we did 18 and 19 at the same time because it was slightly behind. So this is an annual report. And if you start off on page 1 of the booklet, this is the independent auditor's report. So this is our report on your financial statements. And there's several types you can receive: a modified report or an unmodified report. The unmodified report basically says that your financial statements are materially correct after adjustments and fairly stated. So you received an unmodified report, which is the best you can receive. On page 3, this starts the management and discussion and analysis. Now, this is probably not good bedtime reading. It's typically written by us from management's point of view. You really don't have a large management group right now, so we just wrote it, and hopefully you'll agree. But it is short and informative. The basic financials start on page 7 and 8, and in your governmental reports, you show, am I speaking loud enough?
No.
Yeah, okay. You show 2 types of reports. We show a full accrual basis, and we show a modified accrual basis. And the modified accrual basis statements are shown the way you budget. So you budget to expense capital outlay or capital assets, and debt service payments are also expensed. Compensated absences aren't really expensed until somebody leaves in salaries. So the full accrual basis, you'll see capital assets, debt, all the debt you owe on your balance sheet, and things like interest payable and compensated absences. So we'll look at the full accrual statements on page 7. And if you look at them, you'll notice that your total current assets were $1,067,000. Of that, $957,236 was cash. Your capital assets were $501,226. Of that, you had $166,502 in construction in progress. So the construction in progress, I believe, was this building, a remodel, and because it's still in construction in progress, we don't start depreciating it yet. And then in liabilities, you had total liabilities of $866,781. $800,000 of that basically is your long-term debt that you took out with Frost Bank. Your net position at the end of the year was $701,983. It's made up of 2 components. Your net investment in capital assets, which basically is your capital assets minus any debt associated with those assets, and then your unrestricted net position, and that was $219,948. I'm going to skip to page 9. Now this is presented on the modified accrual basis. So this is your balance sheet, and you'll see it's slightly different from your statement of net position because you don't see any fixed assets or debt associated with those. You just see the current economic resources. So your total assets there were $1,067,538. Again, your cash was $957,236. And then you have receivable of ad valorem of $66,000. And then other receivables at the end of the year made up $48,000. The liabilities were $41,385. And that made up accounts payable, and then any accrued expenditures were basically related to payroll. Your unavailable property tax revenue is next. It was $62,127. So this is basically the property tax that you did not collect throughout the years you've collected tax. So your constituents owe you $62,000 in property tax. Typically those are collected if they're behind when you sell a property. So you have an unassigned fund balance of $964,026. $750,000 of that is the capital projects fund, and you'll expect that amount to decrease as you finish your capital projects. But in your unassigned fund balance in the general fund, you had $214,000. GFOA, or Government Finance Officers Association, recommend that you have 4 to 6 months of expenditures, operating expenditures. You guys were about 30%. So you're almost there.
What would you recommend that be?
Well, you have basically 100,000 in expenditure, or $1 million in expenditures almost. And then I would take away your 187,000, which was capital outlay, bringing down to 800,000. So I would recommend about 75,000 more.
75K more, okay.
In where?
For our reserve funds,
Oh, okay.
emergency funds.
So those typically aren't as important in years where you don't have something like COVID or a hurricane that, you know, skips up and hits
Or a roof.
you guys, or a roof leaks.
Yeah.
But you know, if you have damage to your property, or because one of your biggest sources of revenue is property tax, if you had a Hurricane Harvey that, for instance, Lockhart was hit hard by that, even though they're not on the coast. So property values deflated. And so the next year they had a little problem because some of their property tax could not be collected to meet debt. Same thing happened to Galveston when they were hit. Rita, I believe it was. You know, they had a default on a couple of their bond payments because they didn't have a proper fund balance, and property values were not good. So anyway, probably more than you wanted to know, but the next page, page 10, is just basically a reconciliation between the statement of net position and the balance sheet. And I won't go over that. Page 11 is your statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in fund balance. And instead of looking at that one, I'm going to ask you to turn back to page 24, which is the general fund, but this page has the original and final budget plus 2019 actual expenditures. So it makes it a little more enjoyable to look at. The total revenues that you budgeted for at the end of the year were $593,250. You actually received $653,565, which ironically is slightly above what you originally budgeted for. So you had a positive variance of $60,350. And if you look at the far column on the right, you'll notice that you actually brought in last year $530,000 in revenues. So you were $120,000 above what you had collected in the prior year. And the biggest area there would be $50,000 in property tax increase, and then miscellaneous increase of about 47. The general expenditures, all the way at the bottom, you budgeted to spend $985,499, and you actually spent $957,803. So again, you had a positive variance of $27,696. Last year you spent $536,887, but you did much more street maintenance than you did in the prior year, close to $140,000. And then you actually had operating costs that went from $172,000 to about $308,000. So if you go to the page 25, you'll see that your net change in fund balance, you had budgeted a negative $392,249, but you actually only had a net change in fund balance of a negative $283,098. So you had a positive variance of $109,158. Overall, your ending fund balance went from $497,115 down to $214,017. I talked with Mickey or Mayor earlier about the way you budget. I'd like to see the revenues minus the expense and then any carry forward down below, so you'll know that that's actually prior year fund balance that you can use. Okay. So it typically, you would have a negative operating budget. On page 30, and this is your changes in statement of revenues and changes in fund balance for your capital projects fund. Typically, we don't show a budget for that because it goes over the course of 2 or 3 years and it's not GAAP. So also in 2019, we did not have a capital projects fund. So the interest revenue on your actual bond proceeds this year were $9, so not a huge amount. And you had bond issue costs of $50,000, a little more than the interest you earned. And then you had proceeds from bond issuance of $800,000. So that brings that fund balance to $750,009. That's basically all I have on the report. We did have a couple comments on the 2 letters. So we presented material weakness and internal controls. And part of the first comment is segregation of duties. And the segregation of duties is really due to the limited amount of staff you have. So it's very difficult to separate all your duties, and the mayor performs quite a bit of your accounting. So typically you might see a reviewer of those types of functions instead of your mayor. And I'm not saying that's bad, I'm just making you aware that you don't have good segregation of duties. So there's alternative ways that you could probably increase those, and then we had improper banking practices. The city is currently tracking bank accounts outside their accounting software. And this was really last year. I think you're up to a little more up to speed in tracking those within the software this year. So the importance increases when you get things like your debt service fund and your capital projects fund. So now you have those both. Because you'll have a debt service fund for paying your debt for the next 25, 30 years. And then you also will have a capital projects fund to spend down those monies. So anyway, we just request that you kind of look at that and instill some internal controls in that area. Then the next item was communication with those charged with governance. And this basically tells you your responsibilities as an organization and my responsibilities as far as independence and that type of thing. I am independent of the city. I have no relationship with anybody in the city. The scope and timing of the audit was delayed a little bit because we have limited staff to work with. Significant accounting policies. You had no changes in significant accounting policies during the year. We did have significant accounting estimates, and those were basically your depreciation allowance, and then any allowance for doubtful accounts. Financial disclosures, if we think that there's no real sensitive disclosures right now in your financial statements, possibly when you get something like TMRS, or if you had a subsequent event that was major, some type of large grant. Significant difficulties encountered in the audit. We had no significant deficiencies. Uncorrected and corrected misstatements, we did make some adjustments. They were reviewed and accepted. And then there were no unadjusted misstatements during the year. We had no disagreements with management. We did request a signed representation letter, which was signed. We're not aware of any consultations with any other accountants about the audit. And then we have some other internal control matters that we discuss on page 4. And they're just improvements or opportunities for improvements. You have an informal capitalization policy. So we believe you should set a formal capitalization policy to establish and implement written controls necessary to protect the assets of the city and record assets in compliance with federal rules and regulations in US GAAP. Establish a threshold like $500 or $1,000 with a life of maybe 3 or 4 years. I would go a little higher. I would probably go $5,000 because you are going to be a growing city.
Mhm.
And then you don't have to go back and prove it periodically. And one of the things that you want to do is you have that inventory, so you'll want to actually do an annual review of your inventory and make sure you have all those assets, as well as making sure that they're covered by insurance.
Mhm.
You don't currently have a fund usage policy to state how the funds are to be used in the future. By not creating the usage policy, the city may erroneously use funds for expenditures that were used for other specified expenditures. For example, things that were restricted, designated, committed, or assigned. You don't really have a lot right now to assign, but an assignment would be if you specifically wanted to set aside monies for somewhere down the future, you could assign those fund balances or commit them. Committing and assigning are two very similar. You usually commit by an ordinance, assign is just a vote by the council. A restriction is typically monies that you receive for a specific purpose that you're allowed to collect. And usually it's beneficial for you to spend the restricted first, then the committed, then the assigned fund balances. And if we haven't, we can send you an example of a nice little policy that you could approve.
That would be helpful.
So compliance with Public Funds Investment Act, you really didn't have, you don't have any investments. So,
Well, we do.
Really?
We have text pool.
but did you at the end of the year? 9:30?
We've had it for a few years.
Yeah.
It's our reserve fund.
But even text pool is not required to have an investment.
Mm.
It would be, even though it's a great idea to, even though you have text pool to have a quarterly investment report, it's
We
not
do.
required.
Yeah, we do quarterlies on that. It's
So
our,
we have that.
it's our rainy day fund.
We have that during fiscal year 2020, the city was in compliance with the act, and I actually just probably put that.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So,
Because they're both sitting right here.
oh, okay. Sorry.
We have a primary investment officer in backup.
Good, great, that's always good. I also want to point out something I did in the notes to the financial statements. On page 20 and 21, 20 was a note F, capital assets. You had those last year, but it's just a detail of what type of assets you have and the depreciation expense that's allocated.
Mhm.
But what is new to you is on page 21, your long-term debt. You have capital lease, bonds payable. And so we do have the additions and retirements of your long-term debt, as well as what's due in 1 year. And then if you look below that, your bond is broken down between the next 25 years, but through 2035. And then below that is your equipment for public works, and those were how those were.
The capital lease is actually the tractor. The capital lease here, that's the tractor that we have.
I thought we bought that.
We're still making payments on it.
You're putting it under lease.
Yes, it's a capital lease.
Oh.
Yeah. The plan was to do an outright purchase, and we could still do that. But last year, because of COVID, we weren't quite sure how the finances were going to work out. So we just decided let's not throw out a whole lot of money at one time and see how things work out at the end. So for next fiscal year, we can discuss that again.
And that's actually all I have. If you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy
So
to
I
answer.
know that one of the items, because you and I talked about it, and I know it's going to come up in general discussion outside of this room about the carryover balance, because that has always been one of those pieces of information that, how much carryover do we have? Well, we really don't have carryover. Based on the conversation you and I had, I want to make sure I'm reiterating
We
it
have
correctly.
carryover, it's the way you allocate it in the budget.
We
So
don't put it in the
Yeah,
budget.
you-
We don't
you
budget for
should not
that.
be using it in your budget. You can put your revenues and expenses
Mhm.
and then have it basically a negative budget, a negative expense budget.
Yeah.
A
A net loss.
Basically,
Right.
yes, you're budgeting for the net loss, like you did, I mean, you really did last year.
We just put it in the wrong
You just
place.
put it in the wrong spot.
Right.
So, GAAP or generally accepted accounting principles does not allow you to do that.
Okay.
So, but you wouldn't, I mean, it's useful because you really don't want to budget for funds you don't have. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So I'm much clearer on that. I'll go remove that one entry.
I have a question. There was
yes,
an entry on our assets. Is depreciation figured into that figure?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. And that's on page 23, I believe, or 20. You can see the breakdown of the type of asset in the first section, and then right below it is the accumulated depreciation, the additions of your depreciation expense, or additions column is the depreciation expense.
And what page was that?
20.
Oh.
It came up in the discussion early on. And I was just wondering if, in our balance sheet, if our assets that was reflected in them, current depreciation.
Well, so in the modified accrual basis financial statements, you don't show your assets on your financial statements in the way you budget the monthly statement. You would only show it once a year in your governmental wide statements.
Okay.
So I don't need to be budgeting for depreciation
No.
at all.
No.
Okay.
What you want to do is maybe have a 5-year plan for capital purchases, and you would figure your depreciation within that. So
But it's
more
not
of a
entries that we're
strategic-
making. This is part of the entries, those other journal
Those
entries.
GASB
Yes.
entries that, you
Yeah.
don't have to make. So if you look at like page 20, you'll see like construction in progress is an addition, but it's not depreciated, nor is land. But for the governmental wide statements or the full accrual statements, you see those, and you'll only see those one time a year.
Okay.
So again, most cities will develop a 5-year strategic plan for purchasing capital assets. And you're so small, it's a really good idea to start doing that now.
Mhm. Right.
And it's good practice. And later on, as you develop, we'll recommend that you start doing maybe a 2 or 3 year budget. So you'll budget for not only 2021, but 2022 also. And it just gives you a more strategic look forward to your city, and what capital assets will we have to purchase, what's our expected tax rate, will we be able to pay for this through a capital lease, or will we be able to pay for it straight up?
Okay.
So we recommend starting a 3-year budget, but at your level, it's really sometimes not as useful.
I'm struggling with one.
I can see your brain going 3
Oh,
years.
Lord.
Sorry.
No, but we do need to be moving in that direction. I mean, we are small, we're growing, and so far we're doing everything apparently fairly well.
It's a best practice.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
starting out, sometimes it's better to start those best practices, as painful as they are, early on,
Yeah, I agree.
because they are painful.
Okay, any other questions?
What do you want?
Any questions?
Can we make a motion to accept the budget,
The report.
the report?
Ms. Ortiz, do we need to make a motion on this item?
Yes, a motion to accept and approve as presented.
Okay.
So I'll move that we accept and approve the annual financial report for fiscal year ended September 30th, 2020.
I'll
Is that correct?
That is correct.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Rapino and a second by Alderman Crickmer to accept and approve the independent audit for fiscal year ending 9/30/2020 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
it. Be safe. We'll be talking.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's go back to page 1. Back on track now.
We're gonna go to 4.
Pardon?
That was last week, wasn't it?
We're going to move on to item number 4. Looking to see. The financial and budget report, the income and expense will be reported by City Clerk Charlotte Ray with possible discussion and/or action.
Okay, the beginning balance was $247,189.75. Less checks and payments of $78,664.22. Plus deposits and credits of $41,027.64. That's a cleared balance of $209,553.17. New deposits and credits, $13,213.95, leaving us with an ending balance of $222,767.12.
I do know there was a correction done on the May statement. As I was looking through it, there were 2 entries for salary. This is on the May report, the last month. There were 2 entries for salary that ended up in the Marshall supply line instead of salary line. Those have been corrected, so it's not, it affects nothing here. It will just be accurately represented in the records.
Yeah.
But those 2 things were found and corrected.
Will we do any payments as far as tax collection or franchise fees or anything?
No, we don't do any.
Yeah,
That is all.
$25,000 short fee for the month.
I'm sure. Oh, no. Well,
Yeah,
that's for
yeah.
that month, but
Right.
some months were up, some were down, but
Right.
we have plenty of money in the bank.
Oh, I know.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion on number 4?
I make a motion that we accept the financial budget report for months was
June.
June 2021 as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Alderman Crickmer and a second by Alderman Rapino to accept the income and expense report as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion is unanimous. Okay. Item 5, quarterly report. Receive a brief from Alderman Rapino on the quarterly investment report with possible discussion and/or action.
Okay, I will make a report on the quarterly investment report, the windfall that we had from the
We
from
are
the tax pool of $4.15.
Well, at least it didn't cost us anything.
That's right. We didn't lose any money, and we haven't since we invested in tech. But unfortunately, $4.15 is better than a loss. for
Exactly.
sure. So we did make $4.15 from since I guess April through June. So that concludes the investment report for the last quarter.
So what I'd like to do, I know that you've added the checking account on here,
Yeah,
and that's fine. I'm gonna also provide, we've had to, we're upgrading our QuickBooks version because the one that we've been using for a
Mhm.
while really is not adequate for what we need. And tracking the bond fund was a challenge. So I've been working with the accountant. We've got it set up. I just now need to go in and make the transactions to balance to the bank statements. So we'll add that.
okay.
To your
I
next
remember you
report.
said you didn't want it at once, so I didn't mention it.
We didn't
this time.
have it,
Yeah,
anything to really, I mean,
yeah,
anything accurate to talk about.
okay,
So I'd rather not have put it on there, but going forward, we'll put that on here as well.
okay.
And we'll have other funds to talk about too.
Okay, hopefully.
We will.
All right.
We're making progress in that
Okay,
respect.
good.
Okay, so
We need a
we do need a
I want to
motion.
make a motion that we approve the quarterly investment report as presented by Alderman Rapino.
A second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Crickmer and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Fillinger to accept the quarterly investment report as presented by Alderman Rapino. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion is unanimous. Let's move on to number 6, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. We have 3 items on here. Item A is to approve the minutes from June 10th regular City Council meeting. Item B is approve the May 2021 City Attorney invoice number 1277 from Casana and Ortiz, not to exceed $2,686.50. And item C is to ratify spending for removal of a tree in the city park for an amount of $960.
On the tree, is this the one that got the email about?
Can't have a conversation. If you want to pull it off, we can pull it off and talk about it separate.
Well, for free.
If that's what she's asking, but
That's reasonable, actually. The price, I mean,
Yeah.
so either we
Accept it.
accept all of them or you can request that we pull it off if you want to discuss it.
No, it's fine. Let's do that.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented, A, B, and C.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Crickmer and a second by Alderman Rapino to accept the consent agenda as presented for items A through C. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion is unanimous. Okay.
Those are.
Okay, item number 7C. Consider and/or possible action on repairing the AC on the Ford Expedition that is used by the Sandy Oaks Police Department. So, in the heat of the summer, the AC decided to go out on the Expedition.
That's when it happens.
That's when it happens.
Right.
And
that's
so it has put us a vehicle short for our police department. I will tell you that I am actively working to replace that unit
Good, good.
through Bear County, through their surplus program that we've done in the past. They have not received their new vehicles to release any. So we're looking at probably 2, maybe 3 months before we may have a suitable vehicle available. That's too long, in my opinion, to have an officer have to struggle with no AC in the hottest time of the year. So my recommendation, I've had a conversation with an AC, with a mechanic who deals specifically in that. What happened is the compressor failed and it shot the lines all have the metal shavings. So, and it is a dual AC, front and rear. So it can cost us as much as $2,000. It's probably going to be less than that. The ones that I've spoken to seem to think that the lines can be salvaged and the, not the compressor, but there's a,
Evaporator.
yes, that's the one, that may be salvageable as well.
Yeah, only worked on it for 40 years.
Yeah. So right now, the estimate that I've been given, we should not exceed 2,000 on that. I do recognize that, we don't have to retire that vehicle. We could still use it as a spare. We can take it out of police service and use it in another way, or we could dispose of it as we did. It is a 2007 model. It's a little rough, but it's not, that particular vehicle is not technically configured for a police vehicle. They come with upgraded transmission coolers, and there's all kinds of things that are different on a police configured vehicle. That one is not. So we do want to look at ultimately replacing that, but I think in the meantime, we need to address the AC.
If I may add something to that, it may be optimistic to look at 3 months. I don't expect the new police cars being manufactured that they will buy to be available before November or December because of the chip shortage.
Right.
And so we might be stuck with it for 6 months. And I see no problem fixing it. And as you say, stripping it of all its junk and just make it a vehicle for other purposes around here.
Bear County has indicated that July is the month that they are expecting to begin receiving some of their new vehicles. So there will be some, but how long that process takes, again, assuming they get delivered, because there is a chip shortage. So yeah, I agree. In my opinion, I think fixing this and keeping it in service as long as we possibly can benefits the department, but it will also help on the value for sale, which we probably would send it to auction anyway, but having a working AC is certainly better than not having one.
Well, true, it'd be worth about, I was in the used car business at one time. I guess it could be worth around 900 to 1,000 at auction, but it would bring back 2,500 with a new working AC.
I agree.
So I don't think our downside here is too big.
I have a question.
Sure.
I noticed that the window, is it the driver's window?
It is the
Not up
driver's
all the way?
window.
Is there an issue with that as well?
There is.
Is that part of it or different?
That's a different part.
But
That would be
needs
just
to-
general maintenance.
needs to
This
be
is a
repaired, though.
significant, and that's we do stuff like that all the time. If it needs an oil change or we had a headlight that went out, stuff like that, those are fairly easy to repair and wouldn't necessarily require council approval unless the fee would be, over $500, which I don't
But nobody
anticipate.
wants to drive it to the south.
Exactly.
If a headlight goes out or a tail light goes, you write himself a ticket?
No, they take turns writing each other tickets.
Okay, I would like to make the motion that we approve no more than $2,000 for the repair of the air conditioning system.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Fillinger and a second by Alderman Rapino to approve repairing the AC on the Ford Expedition for a price not to exceed $2,000. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion is
Yeah,
unanimous.
that's less than 3 months payment on a new vehicle.
It is. And you don't want grumpy police officers.
You couldn't get a new vehicle for that in 1952.
Okay, item 8, animal control. Item A, updates and announcements from Animal Control Advisory Committee, ACAC Chair Jennifer Puente, with possible discussion and/or action. Do you have any general announcements?
No, will Chris be back on Monday?
He will be. I think he'll be back. It may not be Monday. Is it Monday or Tuesday?
Because our meeting's on Monday,
I thought it was.
but we kind of need.
I think he's going to be back on Monday. He
Okay.
just took off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week.
Okay. So then we'll have the meeting, July 12th is Monday at 6:30. Can we have it here?
We can.
We'll do it here.
Okay, and that's the ACAC meeting. And then are we doing
We're gonna probably,
Penny Pines?
I haven't heard anything from Penny Pulse.
Okay. I think
I want
that
to
we
say
are,
it is, but
I think we're on a regular schedule for third
the third Saturday,
Saturday.
which would be the 17th. I just haven't, it hasn't been confirmed.
Okay, so we're waiting on final confirmation.
What's on the third?
Penny Pines in the park, the mobile vet,
When is that?
tentative for July 17th. We just need to confirm that date is confirmed with them. Okay, anything else?
No, that'll be it.
And Officer Maldonado is not here, and I doubt we have a report from him. Is that correct? So we will pull item B. We'll make him do it twice next month. Item C is discuss and or possible action on appointment of CJ Walker to the Animal Control Advisory Committee. So we have another volunteer who would like to join us. Did you?
She's on.
Yeah, I see her on here.
She misses the seat of power.
And she's unmuted. Hello, Miss Walker.
Hello.
So, would you like to make the nomination?
Yes. I would like to nominate CJ Walker to the Animal Control Advisory Committee.
Ms. Walker, would you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Then I second the nomination.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Puente to nominate CJ Walker to the Animal Control Advisory Committee, and Ms. Walker has accepted that nomination, and Mayor Pro Tem Fillinger has seconded the motion.
Can I ask a question? If she nominated, doesn't someone approve the nomination?
Then I approve the nomination.
Now we need a second for his,
Oh, Lordy.
I'll second.
I'm thinking that's the way it's supposed to go. We can
Okay.
focus on
Yeah.
So we have a nomination.
Then we have approval.
Okay, so we have a nomination by Jennifer Puente to nominate CJ Walker, who has accepted, and a second on the nomination by Alderman Crickmer. All in favor of nominating CJ Walker to the Animal Control Advisory Committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. And now, Ms. Shelton,
Yeah,
what do we do next?
we move on to number 9.
Thank
Public Parks and Works.
Congratulations, CJ.
Congratulations, CJ. Welcome back.
Eggs.
Okay, number 9. Hold on, I'm not ready for you.
Okay.
Public Works and Parks, item A, update and announcement from Parks Advisory Committee Chair Tom Rapino with possible discussion and or action. Do you have any general announcements? sir?
Just that we met on Tuesday, and our major project right now is trying to set the fees for rentals and also the deposit for the community center, and we will address that again at our next meeting.
And y'all did 2 of those.
Oh, yeah, and we also,
Yeah.
we have all the flags in now, and we held a little ceremony this afternoon to get the flag here at the municipal plaza, as I like to call it. So that's generally what has happened with the parks. And that's all I have in that arena.
Well, I would like to publicly acknowledge our Parks Committee and our volunteers. This has been a very, very active group, and they're getting a lot accomplished. And our activities director and her little group of
She's a little
minions. I like
dynamo.
that.
Fantastic.
They did a great job on the 4th of July event in the park. So kudos to them. And I think it was very well received by the community. And we hope to do more events like that throughout the year. Okay, let's move on to item number 9B, which is discussion and or possible action on appointment of members to the Parks Advisory Committee. This is being brought by Alderman Rapino and Mayor Pro Tem Fillinger. Go ahead, gentlemen.
And I would like to nominate Megan Albiez Cordova.
It's a V, not a B. It's Cordova.
And
It's not a B. It's a
is
V.
it
Yeah, I know. I see it all the time.
Cordova?
It's a V
Okay, Cordova. I don't know why I said Cordova.
because that's what's written on here.
Okay, okay. I'd like to nominate Megan to join the Parks Committee. She's very accomplished and she has a lot of good ideas. Did she join us? She wasn't sure whether she'd be able to
don't.
on there, but she said I could proxy for her. She does want to be on the Parks Committee, so I accept her nomination for her.
Not only did he nominate her, he's accepting.
Small pie
So
cap.
I guess we need.
You are
a-
committed, Megan.
We need
Yeah.
I guess a second on that nomination.
Yes.
Yeah, and then an approval.
I will approve that nomination.
Okay?
And then I'll second it.
Okay,
Okay, so Alderman Rapino has both nominated and accepted on her behalf Megan Cordova to join the Parks Committee, and Mayor Pro Tem Fillinger and Alderman Puente have made a motion and approved her nomination for the position. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion is unanimous. Let's move down to item number 10C. I'm going to pull this one. We will talk about it at a future meeting. The reason for pulling that is that there are a couple of significant outstanding invoices related to the water damage that we have not received yet. I want to make sure when I do the amendment that it covers everything. So I do have commitments from those vendors to have those final invoices hopefully by the end of next week. So Ms. Ray, will you make a note to put this item on the next agenda, please? Okay, we'll move on to item 10D. Discuss and or action on setting a hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2021-2022 and other relevant dates. So I'm going to ask Ms. Ortiz to jump in on this conversation because as usual, this whole budget planning thing gets, there's all kinds of dates. We have to have a public hearing, we have to post, we have to present, we have to approve, we have to set a tax rate date. There's a lot of dates that are involved here. So Ms. Ortiz, can you lead us through that discussion, please?
Yes, so both the budget requires a public hearing once it's on file, at least after the 15th day after it's been on file with the city clerk, so at least 16 days afterwards. Notice of the public hearing must be published in the paper at least 10 days before the hearing date. And the budget hearing must occur at least 30 days before the before the tax rate is adopted. So if I don't know if usually it's good to work from the date, either you're going to file the budget, or if the budget's already on file, to work from that date, or a date you typically want, or you would propose that the tax rate would be adopted, and then work backwards from there to make sure you're meeting all the timelines. The date doesn't need to be established tonight if y'all don't know the timeline. It can be established at the next meeting, or the mayor can set the hearing with a meeting once she knows when the budget's going to be filed.
No, I don't.
I included other relevant dates just in case the council wanted to talk about a tax rate hearing or the date that would be adopted. Not knowing what the proposed tax rate would be, or because we haven't received the calculations back from the county and will not receive those until probably July 25th or before. It may be a little premature to start setting those dates, not knowing whether there's going to be whether it's going to be around the no new revenue date or around the voter approval date.
Yeah, so what's interesting about that is that the Bearcat office wants our tax worksheet by the 16th, but we're not going to get our no new revenue number till 25th. So it's a guess. We're going to have to do the best we can with the dates we have. But the one deadline I do know is I have to have the tax rate worksheet done by the 16th of July. And that basically is going to be based on what I'm proposing for the budget. So I'm going to have to, I don't know how we do that. I don't know how we make those dates, because we're not going to meet again until after then.
I got a question. We have to know our tax rate. We have to declare it before we do our budget
No, I'm going to build the budget
based on the tax rate.
pretty much based on the tax
Revenue,
rate.
right.
Yes, because the way it works is we start getting these supplements. We've been getting them for about a month now. As the appraisal district is clearing the, what's the term?
Receiving the revenue?
No. The protest, that's the word.
Oh,
As they're clearing the protest, those, whatever the outcome is from the protest is adjusting up or down our taxable values.
Value.
So they're doing a really, really good job on that. The email I got the other day, I think they said they're already 65% done for all of the county. So there are still some outstanding. I'm one of those. I haven't had my date yet, but so the good news is I expected to see a rather significant drop in our taxable values that we'll be working with. And I'm really not seeing that big of a drop. What I did see is our taxable value, appraised value, the assessed value, grew by $20 million last year. That's strictly growth out here. It doesn't take much. Now, just because it grew by 20 million, there's a formula. There's a formula you go through. So yeah, I think the net is going to be roughly about 50 grand to us. Yeah. About 50 grand is what I expect year over year, but we'll talk all about that later. So Ms. Ortiz, I did send you an email, which was the letter from Ureste's office. And I know you and I've kind of passed some emails back and forth about the posting requirements. I gathered from the letter from them that if we are assessing less than 500,000, that we would not have to do the newspaper publication, that we do have to publish it on our website in a prominent place. But I don't know that we still have to do the posting in the paper.
So all the calculations, they'll give you, the BCAD will give you like a calculation worksheet, and that provides the no new revenue date, the de minimis rate, and the voter approval rate, as well as the MNO, maintenance and operations, and the interest and sinking fund. That rate calculation does not need to be published in the paper. That's just on the website. And then the notice requirements, even for a small levy city like Sandy Oaks, depends on what the proposed tax rate would be. If it is, if it exceeds either the no new revenue rate or the voter approval rate, I think it does need to be published. If it does not exceed any of those rates, there's a different, it's a simpler notice, and really just notice of the meeting of which it would be adopted would need to be published.
Okay.
And that's what the city has done before Senate Bill 2. That's what the city has done. They've used the simpler rate notice where just the meeting had to be published with the proposed tax rate, and you didn't need all the complications because it's a low levy city. But now that they've changed that percentage that requires an election, it may be harder for the city to then stay below either the no new revenue rate or the voter approval rate.
Okay.
So it really depends on what the proposed rate would be, but all the calculations do not need to be published. That's just on the website.
Got it. And the worksheet for everyone, I think this is also part of Senate Bill 2, was this worksheet that they do. Bear County publishes what they call Truth in Taxation. That's what that worksheet does, is we provide that information, and that's what gets published on their website. Okay, so unless anyone has any objections, I'm gonna ask that we probably not set any dates tonight, because I just don't have good information to go with yet. And we have the ability to call a special meeting if we need to,
Yeah, if the need arises, we call a special meeting. We'll just
so that we can
pass
meet the
this
deadlines.
Yep.
Yeah, and we don't even have to do it in person. It could be remote. It could probably be short and sweet. But I think for now, I don't believe we're in a position to schedule anything right now.
So you want to pull that out?
I will pull that item. And Ms. Ray, please make a note that that will be on the next agenda, if not sooner. Okay, and next item, we'll move on to item 10F. Discuss and or possible action on a resolution ordering a general election to be held on November 2nd, 2021 for the purpose of electing Alderman Place 1, Alderman Place 3, and Alderman Place 5, authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding and subsequent joint agreement, providing for an effective date and other matters related to such election. So this is standard fare. We do it every year for election season, which is upon us again. And this year we have 3 aldermen that will be up for re-election, should they so choose to pursue that. And this always confuses me when y'all do the English and Spanish on the same thing. I know it is, but it confuses me. Because usually I'm used to seeing one document in
I
one.
was
and-
waiting for you to finish reading the rest of the agenda.
Yeah, you'll be waiting for a while. I'll need some tequila first.
You're gonna get trouble for that one.
Am I? I like tequila, why?
You've seen which.
Okay. So the resolution is resolution number 2021-134, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, ordering a general election to be held on November 2nd, 2021 for the purpose of electing Alderman Place 1, Alderman Place 3, and Alderman Place 5, designating the location of the polling place, ordering notice of election to be given as prescribed by law in connection with such election, authorizing execution of joint agreement, and providing for an effective date. Now, there are some blanks in here we have to fill out. One thing I do want to throw out here is we never know definitively if Bear County is going to designate this location for early voting or day of election voting. I'm hoping now that we're in this building, we have better internet connections. We have a much larger room here that we can accommodate that. That door, you know, they can come up the ramp, come in here, and not be disruptive to other operations. I'm certainly hoping that we can do both early and regular voting. Can't promise about the early, I can't promise about any of it, to be quite honest.
Right.
Early is, there are so many locations, and they may, now that we have an established facility here, they may put us on that list, which is fine. But I certainly do want to pursue, let them know that we are very much interested in, at minimum, having day of election voting here. I don't know that we can answer that particular question just yet. And Ms. Ortiz, in this resolution, is there, here it is, agreement with Bear County. I just want to make sure whatever we approve on here, we had this conversation last year, I think it was last year, where we put language in the resolution that said, you know, dependent upon the Bear County Elections Office.
Do you mean for the early voting or the polling location?
Yes.
It is included currently as, well, not for the early voting, I think, but for the polling place is City Hall. And then there's a footnote or other place authorized or designated by Bear County, because they will usually do not make that until make those decisions until their deadline.
Exactly. And so just for everyone here, who is our elections administrator here? Is it you, or is it, it's going to be Charlotte? Okay.
It's usually the city.
It's city clerk is typically, okay.
Yeah. I
So
don't know, am I taking it on?
No. The role follows, the responsibility follows the role. So what we need to do here is decide on the place on the ballot. So typically what we do is, if I'm not mistaken, July 17th starts the first available date for applications, and it ends on August 16th. Is that the right date?
That's what it says.
That's what it says on here.
That's what it says.
that
It's on
here?
the front page.
So it's normally done with drawing
Section
the same
2.
day as the filing
July
deadline.
17th and the 16th. So typically what we do for drawing a place on the ballot is the deadline, we move from the deadline straight to the drawing. So,
Like 5:30, 6 o'clock.
so section 7 here, we have to choose a time and a date, and we'll do it here. Is that agreeable with everybody to do August 16th at 5 p.m. or you want to do 6 p.m.?
What month?
This
6 p.m.
is for drawing for a place on the ballot.
Yeah,
There's
I
We
think-
usually
okay.
do it at 6.
August
don't we?
16th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
have to wait
at
a
6
while.
p.m. What day is it?
At 6
It's
p.m.
not a cutoff date for, I guess I'm gonna choose.
It was August
So we have a
16th.
period of time that the state decides
It's a
when
Monday.
you can first
Monday?
submit an
Yeah.
application and when the deadline is to submit
August
the
16th is a
application.
Monday.
Once applications are submitted, then we have to draw for a place on the
Yeah,
ballot.
I understand
And that's
that.
what we're doing. So August 16th is the last day to submit. They have till 5 p.m. on the 16th. What we're doing here is filling in the blanks for section 7 for drawing for a place on the ballot. So we'll do it on the same day, the 16th. The question is, you want to do it at 5, 5:30, 6?
I've heard 2 6s.
6.
6, yeah.
6
At 6 p.m.
I don't
Okay.
wake up till 5.
We don't want to get you out of bed too early.
We have to be here, they have to be here in person for it?
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah, 6 is good.
Is 6 is good for you? Okay.
And that's all dependent on it.
Yeah, there's more than one person.
Yeah, because if you run unopposed, then there's no drawing
Yeah.
because you're not going to be on the ballot. So that is the only change that I see that we needed to fill in for here.
Mhm.
6 p.m. Okay.
Before, and if I can interject real quickly, before y'all leave, I will get this printed out, so, because it needs to be signed by each alderman.
Got it. Okay.
Because I know you're adjourning after this. Again, I need the motion and then I'll run and do it.
No worries. Okay, any other questions or comments on this particular one here? And you'll, Catherine, you will fill in the
I'll
blank.
fill in the.
everything, okay.
Yeah. Ask for approved, yes.
Okay. And just so you know, this comes from the county. This is not necessarily us creating our own resolution separate from anybody else.
How do you spell July in Spanish?
Julio.
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 Motion?
Okay, we need a motion.
I don't have this, but
I'll make a motion that we
What do you need,
accept
the whole ordinance?
the City of Sandy Oaks Resolution Number 2021-134, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, ordering a general election to be held on November 2nd, 2021 for the purpose of electing Alderman Place 1, Alderman Place 3, and Alderman Place 5. Is that good enough?
That's perfect.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Alderman Rapino and a second by Alderwoman Puente to approve resolution 2021-134, which addresses the calls of
The resolution.
a resolution for the purpose of electing Alderman Place 1, 3, and 5 for November 2nd of 2021. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. And that is unanimous. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm missing, oh, there it is.
11.
11. It is 8:10 p.m. and we are now adjourned. And I appreciate everyone who joined us on the phone. And Renee, I have sent you an email and a text message. So we will be talking. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Good night.
Good night. Somebody just left.
Is that Renee?